Okay, Wildcast. Today we're looking at Friday, September 28th, solving systems by substitution and elimination. That's going to be on page 17. If you would, update your table of contents. All right, now your table of contents are updated. Let's take a look at the notes. Solve systems by substitution and elimination on page 17. Substitution steps. Step 1, solve one of the equations for either x or y. Step 2, substitute the equation from step 1 into the second equation. Step 3, solve the second equation. Step 4, use the found variable in step 3 to find the other variable. And if you would, update the substitution steps. All right. Now let's look at the elimination steps. Step 1, place both equations in standard form, ax plus by equals c. Step 2, determine which variable to eliminate. Step 3, solve for the remaining variable. Step 4, use a variable found in step 3 to find the other variable. If you would, update the elimination steps. All right, now your notes are updated. Let's move on to the examples. Which again are going to be on page 17. Example 1, solve each system by substitution. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these in different colors. So I'm going to do the first equation in yellow and the second equation in blue. Now, step 1 says to solve one of the equations for either x or y. Well, this equation is already solved for y, okay? And we're going to write that here. So this equation is going to be y equals 2, parentheses x minus 1. And this equation is going to be x minus 4y equals negative 13. All right. So step 1, we're going to substitute the equation from step 1 into the second equation. So y is equal to this. So see the y right here? We're going to substitute this in for y. So that's x minus 4, parentheses 2 times x minus 1 equals negative 13. Now step 3, solve the second equation. So we have some distributing to do first. So x minus 4, we're going to distribute in here first. So 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2 equals negative 13. Now we're going to distribute the negative 4. So I'm going to put a 1 here. So 1x, negative 4 times 2 is negative 8x. Negative 4 times a negative 2 is a positive 8 equals negative 13. Okay, so 1x minus 8x is negative 7x plus 8 equals negative 13. Subtract 8 from both sides, you get negative 7x equals negative 21. Divide negative 7 by both sides, x equals positive 3. All right, now the next step is to use the found variable in step 3 to find the other variable. So now we're going to substitute x equals 3 into here. So that's y equals 2, parentheses 3 minus 1. So 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Now this is where a lot of students forget, but you actually have to write the solution as a point. So the solution to this is 3, 4. All right, so now finish up example 1. All right, so now let's take a look at example 2. All right, so again, I'm going to color code these equations. So that's going to be yellow. So y equals 3x plus 2. And this is blue, 3x minus y equals 4. Now step 1 says solve one of the equations for either x or y. Well, again, this is already solved for y. So now step 2, we're going to substitute this equation to the second one. So we're going to substitute this in for y. So we have 3x minus 3x plus 2 equals 4. Now next we solve the second equation. So that's 3x. We're going to distribute the negative 1. So negative 1 times 3 is negative 3x. Negative 1 times 2 is a negative 2. 4. 3x minus 3x is 0, so you're left with negative 2 equals 4. That's a false statement, so we know that there's no solution. All right, so finish up example 2. All right, now let's take a look at example 3. Again, going to color code these. So x equals 1/3 y minus 2/3, and this being blue, 3x minus y equals negative 2. So step 1, solve one of the equations for a variable. It's already solved for us. So now we're going to substitute this equation in for x. So that's 3 times 1/3 y minus 2/3. Right, so I'm going to put a 1 here. 1y equals negative 2. So now we solve the second equation. So 3 times 1/3 is 3 over 3, which is 1y. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, divided by 3 is negative 2. Minus 1y equals negative 2. 1y minus 1y is 0. You're left with negative 2 equals negative 2. That's a true statement. So you have infinite solutions. All right, so finish up example 3. All right, now let's take a look at example 4. Solve each system by elimination. Okay, now in these, I'm not going to use any color because it's going to just make more sense without it. All right, so step 1 says place both equations ax plus by equals c. That's true. Determine which variable to eliminate. Now, it looks like I can eliminate the x's. And the reason we can eliminate the x's, actually, you know even better, the y's. I can multiply the top equation by a positive 4, which we know 4y minus 4y would be 0. So let's do that. So when we do that, we get negative 8x plus 4y equals negative 8. So then put a 1 here, so then that's 1x minus 4y equals negative 13. Now next step, it says solve for the remaining variable. Well, those cancel. You're left with negative 7x equals negative 21. Divide negative 7 by both sides, so x equals 3. Now last step, we're going to substitute this variable into, in this case, either equation. I think I'm going to plug it into the second equation because it looks easier, because all I have to have a positive x. Here it has negative 2 times x. So plug in the second equation. So 3 in for x is 3 minus 4y equals negative 13. Subtract 3 from both sides, you get negative 4y equals negative 16. Divide both sides by negative 4, y equals 4. So the solution is 3, 4. Now what I want you to notice is example 1 and example 4 have the same solution. That's because example 1 and example 4 have the same equations. And I did this on purpose so you can see that you could solve equations using substitution or elimination. Okay? And that's going to be true for example 2 and 5. Okay? Example 2 and 5 have the same equation. So I'm showing you how to solve the same equations using substitution or elimination. All right. So here it says decide which variable to eliminate. Well, I'll take a step back. They're both in ax plus by equals c. So now we decide which variable to eliminate. Looks like in this case, I'm going to eliminate the x's. So I'm going to multiply both the top equation by 2. So 2 times negative 3 is negative 6x. 2 times y is 2y. And 2 times 2 is 4. Now I have 6x minus 2y equals 8. That cancels. You're left with 0 equals 12. False statement, so no solution. All right, example 6. Same thing, same equation, showing you how you can solve it with substitution or elimination. So in elimination, first step is to decide which variable to eliminate. In this case, this is a little tricky in that I'm going to eliminate the y, but you can't just multiply one of them. You have to multiply both equations. So here I'm going to multiply the top equation by 3, bottom equation by 2. That's because that will give me a positive 6, and I'll be getting negative 6. So 3 times negative 6 is negative 18x. 3 times 2 is 6y. 3 times 4 is 12. 2 times 9 is 18x. And 2 times negative 3 is negative 6y. And then 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. That cancels. You're left with 0 equals 0. So it's infinite solutions. All right. So if you understood those examples, start working on the assignment. If not, just know in class you can be working in the teacher-led station or in the small group station to get some help. Okay. So with that, have a wonderful Wildcat